Looking to take your sports knowledge to the next level? Just a fan of wrestling and entertainment? You're in the right place. Welcome to The Show with your hosts, Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of The Show. I am Hollywood JDT, and you guys know my co-host, Stuntman Kirk. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's Friday. My weekend is approaching, so I'm having a fun ride home here. But obviously, I'm excited about talking to all of our fans out there, and let's talk a little football, huh?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Super Bowl, man. What'd you think?
So I just want to point out I was right, 100%. The game went exactly as I expected it to. I was even pretty much spot on about the score. As close as you can get to a score, I was pretty close. I thought San Francisco would come out first, and I thought they would dominate, and I thought they would look like the other teams who have played the Chiefs in the playoffs have looked against them, but that the Chiefs' offense was just going to be too much, and eventually they'd pull away to be probably about a 10 to 14 point victory at the end of it. And I said the Chiefs would be about 31-35, and the San Francisco 49ers would be about 21 to 24. And lo and behold, that's exactly what kind of happened. So it went about exactly as I predicted. I mean, how can you stop Patrick Mahomes? He's a beast right now. He's playing the best quarterback player I think we probably have ever seen. Even when they got down, even when he wasn't playing well, he was not playing well the first three quarters for sure. His talent and that team around him, he could just bring him back from anything. So, I'm not a Chiefs fan whatsoever. I'm a diehard Broncos fan, so never do I want to see any team in the division have success. And it obviously worries me long term and how this is going to go. But kudos to the Chiefs and kudos to their fan base. I know that's been a long time coming for them. 50 years waiting for a Super Bowl win, and for them to get that, I guess that's a good thing for them. I'm just, as a Broncos fan, wondering how are we going to overcome the Chiefs? How is our team going to be able to beat Patrick Mahomes? And we kind of heard from Vic Fangio a little bit how he plans on proceeding. It sounds like he wants to score about 30. That's a good thing because our offense needs it. But I don't know, man. It just really depends on how our team can overcome Patrick Mahomes and all that skill set and those skill positions they have. So anyway, and then on the 49ers side, it was a hard-fought game on their end. I think they gave it their all. I just don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is the same type of quarterback, same type of league that Patrick Mahomes is in, and they don't have the offensive talent that Kansas City has. I think the time management and the play calling, I think they were probably a little too throwing it. I don't understand why they weren't running the ball a little bit more when they had the lead. But, I think they're a team that's set up defensively to do well going forward. That division's not very strong. So, theoretically, they should still be competitive over the next few years. It's just a matter of, they're going to have that Super Bowl hangover if it's going to bother them. Kyle Shanahan, the son, has now been involved in two of the large comebacks in Super Bowl history, giving up the biggest leads in Super Bowl history, and that's not necessarily easy to overcome on their end. So we'll see on how the 49ers respond next season. I'm sure their schedule is going to dictate that it's going to be a little bit tougher path for them going into 2020. But as far as the Chiefs go, man, I don't know what else you can do. They're primed to be dominant for the next 10 to 15 years at least.
No, I agree. I think it was a fun game. It was a good Super Bowl watch. I thought it was fun. I obviously would love to see anybody else, but or not see KC win. I guess worse would have been the Raiders, but you didn't want to see KC win as a Bronco fan. But you got to give credit to that team, man. That team is built. They are a solid team, and they have the pieces there, and they still have a young core. So it's going to be a while of having to battle to keep even relatively, in the mix with this team. It's going to be a battle. I mean, I'm not sure what Denver can do. I don't think there's any short-term fix. There's nothing that's going to, change it tomorrow type thing. And, it's just going to be coming out and having the battle. And you hope that, Mahomes is not playing his best game when you have to play him the 2 times they do now. So that's about really all you can do, and then try to build up the offense and try to build up the defensive points, and hope that with Locke you're able to start putting up 20, in the high 20s to 30 points per game, and that defense with Miller and Chubb and, whoever else they bring in, and, get some corners and they can do some shut, or at least be speedy enough to keep up with Hill and those, that they can, they can do what they have to do to be able to. But as of right now, if you're talking again, the outcomes are going to be the same, and I don't think there's a free agent or a draft pick that they're going to be able to pick up that's going to just change it. But I say that, but you never know what's going to happen in the NFL. Come out this next year, and after winning it could come out and they could stumble and they could be on that Super Bowl high and a Super Bowl fall, and you just never know. So.
Well, the good news is Patrick Mahomes is still on his rookie contract. Eventually, they're going to have to pay him, and he's probably going to command the highest contract of any player in NFL history. And when they do that, I mean, they're going to have to sacrifice some other positions. So, like Tyreek Hill, some of those other positions they have. Some, I don't know where Kelsey is on the grand scheme of things, but eventually they're going to have to pay Patrick Mahomes. And it's going to be kind of a Green Bay situation where, okay, we're going to give all this money to the quarterback, and then we're going to lose all the talent elsewhere. The quarterback's still playing well, but we're only, managing, 10 wins a year or 9 wins a year or 8 wins a year. So that's kind of what you're hoping happens with this situation, as a Broncos fan anyway. But I don't know, because like I said, Patrick Mahomes is so young, and that team is primed to be set up for at least the next 3 to 5 years to be competitive and definitely be a contending Super Bowl team. So we'll see what happens. I think the Broncos just need to stay the course, build a team around Drew Lock, hope that he continues to develop, and hopefully they can start scoring 28 to 30 points a game. So.
The show with your hosts, Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk. We'll be right back.
Rotella Resale offers thousands of products in over 50 categories. Fast and free shipping on every order, lowest prices, as well as a price matching program. Forget those massive retail sites with numerous sellers or massive box stores. Shop where you are treated like family. Choose from fine jewelry, tools, die-cast and collectibles, handbags, housewares, toys, footwear, and much more. Use promo code POD and receive 20% off your entire order. All products are brand new and authentic and will ship out the very next day. Visit www.rotellaresale.com. That is www.rotellaresale.com.
Back to the show. Here's your hosts, Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk.
It's just going to be an interesting mix, I think, to kind of really see how things shake out. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Denver is next year as a team with everything. And, I think, outside of that Chris Harris situation, which really isn't a hostile situation anymore, it just seems like it's hey, I want to test the market. Denver's willing to let him test the market. Which could go either way. I mean, there's a lot of those reports that say, Harris is going to get a, 4-year, $40 million or whatever it might be, a $12 million a year type deal, over 3 or 4 years, where a lot of the other feedback is, there might not be actually a lot of teams that want to do that and pick him up, and you might actually see him more on the decline. He might realize going out there that, hey, coming back to Denver for that, was it 2 years at 12 each, that might be the best deal he's going to get. Maybe he comes back and tries to, return here. So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next year. I mean, it's going to be a fun off season and I think a fun draft, and then we'll see what happens as the team develops. I mean, it's just continuing to build the pieces. That's all you can really do. So, I mean, I still think they're probably the second best team in the AFC West. So as long as they continue to make strides in that direction, we should be set up to at least be competitive with the Chiefs again. I don't know if we'll win the West or not, but we just got to continue to build towards the future.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. Let's take a break. When we come back, we were going to talk about the new CBA deal and what the new season is going to kind of look like, and maybe even, depending on time, get some easy thoughts of what the XFL is kind of looking like. Guys, we'll be right back. This is the show.
The show with your hosts, Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk. We'll be right back.
It's time to rethink your sports podcast. From tip-off to buzzer beater, kickoff to Hail Mary, Triple Overtime Podcast 3OT is here to make sure that they got it, that they cover it all. They discuss the latest in sports every week and deliver you fresh hot takes from 3 different perspectives: unfiltered, unapologetic, unscripted, and ready to take the sports world on one take at a time. New episodes every Saturday, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere podcasts are streamed. Check them out on social media, guys. They're on Instagram at 3OT Podcast. Check them out. You won't be disappointed.
Back to the show. Here's your hosts, Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Let's talk the new CBA. They're talking 17-game season. They're talking expanding the rosters by a couple players each. And I don't remember what else they were looking at there. What's your thoughts on that new CBA deal? Do you think it's going to come together, or do you think we're going to be looking at a strike?
Well, based on the reaction of J.J. Watt and Richard Sherman, it sure doesn't sound like the players are on board with it. I think it's kind of a money situation deal for them. That last game, the 17th game that they would be playing, their pay or whatever would be, I guess, a quarter. They want to be compensated appropriately for that game. And then obviously there's the safety factors as to whether or not they'll be protected and whether or not a 17-game schedule is potential injuries. And, of course, people like Richard Sherman, who's getting older, and J.J. Watt, who's been battling injuries pretty much his entire career, would be hesitant to get to a deal in which they're playing an additional game. I'm curious personally, and I don't know if you know the details of it, where that game's going to be played, because, I mean, right now the games are balanced. You get 8 home games, 8 away games, and it's divvied up in the division. A number of games in there. Curious how that. I don't know if it's late yet or not. How that's all gonna pan out. But yeah, I mean, if the Broncos play 9 games away, 8 games at home, and they wind up 8 Friday. I mean, I'm just throwing a number out there, but let's say they're 8-9. I mean, they could have been 9-8 had it not been for that away game. So I'm curious how that plays out as a fan. I like the playoff setup because it puts more emphasis on the number 1 seed, which I think it should be that way, because I guess from what I'm gathering, that number 1 seed is the only team that's going to have a bye week. Every other team's going to play that first week in the playoffs. So I think that's good. It makes sense. But I am curious from also, I guess, from a player standpoint. The NFL's only been preaching safety, and they've been heavily penalizing the games more and more frequently in the name of player safety. But then you're willing to throw an extra game out there where players are potentially going to get hurt. They're going to get more wear and tear on their bodies. So it doesn't seem in agreement with player safety, but as a fan, of course, I'm all about more football, more NFL. I want to see an additional Broncos game. I mean, that would be all nice and good to watch and everything. So we'll see. It doesn't sound like the players are on board with it, and the NFL's made it clear they're not negotiating this. So if the players don't agree to it and the NFL is steadfast that they're not going to negotiate it, seems to me like what we're going to wind up with is a strike.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's always going to be, as much as they'll say, am I breaking?
No, you're coming through. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I think as much as they always want to say that, they're going to, they're not going to negotiate, they're going to negotiate, Goes down to, hey, the real final thing that they want improved on this is 17 games. To get that 17 games, whether it's take away the preseason, which we know, but if they're looking at like, hey, let's, we want to keep our pay, not have our pay cut per game. That's an adjustment that easily they can come to. If it's like, oh, okay, if that's truly the only thing on there, I could see the NFL making that adjustment without it looking like a big negotiation, where they're not losing what they were saying. But I mean, I think if it comes down to a lot of points and stuff, then it's going to be a different thing. But, I think it does not surprise me that if we're going to wind up with a strike, wouldn't it be this season? It'd be the following season, wouldn't it? Be after the 21 Super Bowl. Earth to Stuntman.
Sorry, I got cut out there for just a minute. I apologize, folks, but I'm back. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think if it's just minor points, I mean, even if the NFL is coming at it as a hard fast, we're not going to negotiate kind of deal. But it's like a minor sticking point, and it's let's just agree to this, or let's give something else here so we can get this versus an entire work stoppage. Then I think they'll fudge a little bit. I can't imagine this is going to be a steadfast, even though that's kind of how they're coming across, refusal to negotiate. And that doesn't look good for the NFL if there is a worker stoppage, because again, their whole argument is player safety. We're looking out for our players. We care about the image of the game, but at the same time, we're going to add another game that, potentially players can get hurt. Then, they kind of got a safe face here a little bit through the media and the fan reaction and the fan base and the players as well. So we'll see how it all works out. Again, I was a fan. I'm in favor of 17 games. It looks good on what they wanted to do on paper. Have you heard anything about how they're going to handle that odd number game? Are they going to play? Are they just going to flip a coin? How's that going to work? I mean, it doesn't seem like they got that.
I'm not sure. I hadn't heard what they were looking at with that. I know there was, and I don't know what was in the final proposal that was submitted or any of that, obviously. But, I know at one point they were talking about it being, hey, yeah, there's going to be that extra game, but maybe players will be required not just with the bye week, but one more game that they don't dress. So it's not even that they're not playing, that they don't dress for that. And I know there was some back and forth on some of that, but that was, I think, even before the season started this last time, and that was kind of put on there as one of those potentials, as a possible. I'm not sure how they would really do the seventh game or the 17th game. That one extra game there where it's not balanced. I mean, obviously it's not going to be everyone's away game, but they could easily do maybe they make it a away game in the sense of, hey, this is how we're going to do London. This is how we're going to do, games in Mexico, and some of the international games. Maybe it's one international game.
Well, I know the NFL, if they could help it, they would have, every team play an international game. And I think the long-term goal is for them probably to, that last game to be played on a neutral site internationally, whether it's in Mexico, London, France, Spain, wherever they could possibly put it, that they can get exposure and it's feasible. That would probably be what they're looking at. And that makes sense. From a business standpoint, those international games where, we don't necessarily here in the States have an interest in international games because I think it just takes away a home game from whatever team is the home team. If it's a neutral game and it's the 17th game and both teams are considered the away team or it's a neutral site, that might be the compromise. I know from the players and coaching standpoint, they don't really care for those international games, but I mean, from a business standpoint, it just kind of makes sense to go that route. So we'll see how it all plays out. I think, the NFL is a smart business. They've been doing this for a number of years. I mean, they're the most popular, entity and most lucrative entity outside of Amazon in the world, outside of Amazon and Disney probably in the world today. So I don't really think they'll have trouble figuring out where that game's going to be played. I think just as a fan, I'm like, well, I mean, am I going to have to play an extra game in Kansas City, or is Kansas City, I mean, how's that going to balance out if Kansas City gets 9 home games and we only get 8 and they win the division by 1? As a fan, I'm like, that wouldn't sit well with me. And even if they alternated it yearly, I still don't think that would sit well the year I wouldn't make the playoffs. So
Right.
We'll see. Like I said, I give them faith. I know the owners, they're watching out for their team too. So they're not looking to give their team any disadvantage. My guess is ultimately this is going to be an international game or a neutral site game, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Well, and I know when the owners did it, not all the owners voted for the 17 games, so it wasn't a full-on, there was some people against it, probably for those same purposes and not really having a full, maybe a picture of it there of what they're wanting to do, so, or how they're going to do it to make it fair.
The show with your hosts, Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, gotta tell you about this brand new app that I've checked out. It is pretty cool. If you hang out on Facebook, if you use Facebook Messenger, you know how much of a pain in the butt it is to have to switch back and forth between the two different apps. Well, Mackie Lite combined it all. Facebook and Messenger in a single small app. No need to download 2 separate apps. No need to switch back and forth or having to use both. They have a dark mode. They have an ad blocker, which is awesome for those annoying Facebook ads that pop up in your newsfeed. They got a rich customization and a lot more. Check them out, guys, on Google. Check it out, guys, on the Google store. It's Makilite, Mackie Lite. Check it out.
Back Kirk.
Let's shift a little bit. Did you get a chance to see any of the XFL? I know we got only a couple minutes left, but
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. My exposure to it was very limited. It was the whatever New York team has and whatever they're playing the first week. I watched about maybe 10 minutes of it. It was a blowout. New York was winning handedly, and what I saw was New York score. They did I guess they have it set up now where it's like a 2-point conversion and a 3-point conversion and a 1-point conversion kind of deal, which is kind of interesting. I like that kind of innovative thinking. I can't tell you I absolutely hate the kickoff. I understand what they were trying to do with it, but the 2 kickoffs I think I saw, player jumped off sides both times. So I think it just is set up too strangely for them. And then their reaction is once the ball's in the air or once they see the ball coming down is to jump out and to react to that. So maybe it'll just take more training, or maybe that's all that needs to happen, or more exposure to it. But there's definitely some tweaking that needs to be involved. How are they doing?
I do know those penalties went way down for the rest of the games that weekend and week 2. That wasn't I think there was one like early jump on a kickoff in week 2, at least that I remember seeing going through it. But I like that kickoff rule. I mean, I think you're talking safety there, but it makes that kickoff a little bit more exciting that, hey, you can't break this line, you can't move until the guy catches it. And there was still a couple, 1 or 2 fumbles, I think, of just that, you still have that moment of you got to catch the ball. And, I think that was good. I like the extra point part. I like the fact that it changes that game. There's not an actual kick, but now you can go for 1, 2, or 3 points, depending on how you do, and it's on the offense. I like that. I thought it was different. It makes it, instead of a 1-point game, if it's a 8-point game, you have the potential to win the game or tie it or to take a lead or tie it, if by going for that 2 or that 3, but just with those extra probabilities there. So I liked it. I thought it was good. I liked the rules with it. I liked the fact they have a spotting judge, that he doesn't make any calls on any of the play other than his whole job is to watch where the ball's at and get the ball down as quick as possible. I like the fact that it's a shorter play clock. It's not 40 seconds. It's 20-second clock. Let's go. Next play. Come on. And I like the production side of it. The fans get to hear the plays getting called. They get to interview guys after a big play on good or bad play, right away. So make it fun for the fan.
Yeah, no, I think, it's what I like about it is they're trying to be innovative. They're not trying to do what they did before. The NFL before was like, or the XFL before, was, let's be the opposite of the NFL. Let's be, we'll be raunchy, we'll be violent, we'll be excessive. I think that was kind of the mindset back, in 2000, 2001, when they initialized the first XFL, the first version of it. This time they're being a little bit more business savvy. I think they're being more innovative. Anytime you can de-emphasize a kick in football, I know in some cases a field goal kick can be exciting, and I'm not trying to take away from the skill set, because God knows I can kick a football between 2 goalposts from 40 yards. But I think
you
anytime
can still do a field goal. You still get the field goal opportunities, but
sure.
It's the extra point that goes away. So, you still have that excitement, like you got to make this kick to tie it or win it. I don't know. Sorry.
But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it to where there's more football plays and more like, hey, we're going to have our quarterback dictate this game, or we're going to have our running game or our offense dictate this game, and we're going to make our defense go out and have to make a play versus, people lining up and kicking a football. I'm not trying to take away from a kick whatsoever. I know there's people who just absolutely love field goal kicks, and I get it. I'm not trying to bash it. I'm just saying anytime you can take the emphasis away from a kicking game and put it back on the offense or the quarterback specifically, I think that's a good thing. So I like they're trying to be innovative. I like that they're thinking outside the box. I think there'll probably be some more tweaks in the off season, as they kind of move along, or even mid-season, to kind of tweak this a little bit more and make it more workable for their players and their coaches and everything, and kind of come up with a product that's different from the NFL, but not trying to be counter NFL like they probably were 20 years ago when they first tried this. So I'm excited for them. I'm excited because, anytime we can get more football, we talked about with the CBA, I want more football. I would just be honest and say I'm probably not interested enough in the product yet to feel like it's a viable alternative to football or NFL in the off season.
Yeah. It's been background for me right now. If we're home, I put it on in the background. Have it just playing in the background. The big happen, go check it out, kind of thing. But I do think that, ultimately, we were talking off air that, part of the big push is Vince, the difference with McMahon compared to what the AFF did is McMahon has a plan for 3 years and funded for that time. So, unless they just completely, for whatever reason, lose a boatload of more money than what's expected this year, going into next year, it's funded already. So, and they had a plan of, hey, we're going to lose 3 years potentially worth of money before we finally can get a TV deal, before we can finally start getting stuff that's going to start making a profit. And then, you look at the expansion at that point, if they're going to, if owners are going to, buy into teams and stuff like that, instead of being just a completely, single owned group. But I think it's good. I think there's a lot there that they can do. I think the good part with it is they're not trying to do like they did before. They're not trying to be the complete opposite. They're just trying to be football that's a little bit more modern, a little bit more innovative, and trying to build up on that. And I think the good part with it is if they can show for this season and next season that, hey, they can keep building, they have the ability to partner, maybe become that NFL partner that the AFF was trying to be, that they can be that developmental league. Think about if, Denver had 2 future signings that instead of signing and they wait till camp, if they're in the XFL right now. You know, that's going to make it a little bit better for that team to be like, ooh, I want to watch. Oh, these guys are on loan there, you know, and that's what makes, the ACL with the AHL with hockey, exciting, because they're one step, there with the players. So, or from the Avs, they're one step down and they can come and go. And, obviously it's a little bit different with the off-season style of, the NFL, but they have that ability to make it good. And I think the nice part is it seems well planned out this time. They didn't rush it like the AFF did. And I think they learned from the AFF's mistakes. So, hey, here's what they did wrong. Let's make sure we, avoid those.
And Vince McMahon doesn't have the distraction he had 20 years ago with the purchase of WCW coinciding with the XFL season kind of deal. I don't know if that really played a factor, if it was just, money-wise, it just wasn't lucrative at the time 20 years ago. And, but, the bottom line is he also bought WCW, and that took a lot of focus and resources that I think, at that point he was more willing to walk away from the XFL after one season. This time it seems like he's put a lot of thought and effort and money into this. He seems committed, like you said, for 3 years. So, if they can last 3 years, which they should, based on their structure, I'm thinking that, they'll see where they are after that fourth season. They'll need to expand, obviously, a little bit more, get into some of these tighter markets, and see where that goes with their fan base and expanding that out. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm all about more football, and, it's kind of unusual to see football in the springtime, but I'm willing to give it a try as long as the product improves and there's more exposure of it. And, as in Denver right now, we don't get a lot of exposure to it because we don't have a team involved, but we don't have a team in the fight, I should say. But I'm willing to give it a shot and see where it goes, and hopefully they just stick with it and let the football people run the operations of it.
Nope, I'm right there with you. I agree. It's at least fun to have football and fun to have some possibilities out there. But guys, that's all we got for today. I know it's a little shorter than our normal, 30 minutes or so, but thank you guys for listening. Stuntman, you got any last words?
Nope. Appreciate the listening. Appreciate the viewers. Appreciate the support. Just stay with it. We'll try to pump these shows out as much as we can with our life schedules as they are. If anyone's willing to pay my normal salary to do this, I'll be more than happy to walk away from my full-time job to do this. So just keep that in mind, folks. I'm willing to take charity to do continued shows for you. So just anything you can throw my way, I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening. This has been the show. We will catch you guys next time.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Show with Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk. Want to stay in the know on all things sports, wrestling, movies, and TV? Follow the show on social media at The Show Podcast. If you like today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on The Show.